Hi, this is Joe's Corner 76. We'll be discussing the human condition. In order to change it, we have to be involved. Am I my brother's keeper? This question first appears in the Bible. The line is spoken after Cain has killed his brother. When God asks Cain where his brother is, he replies, "I do not know. Am I my brother's keeper?" The phrase is one of the most haunting lines in Scripture. The phrase, "Am I my brother's keeper?" is often used in discussions about moral responsibility, community, and accountability. It opens up so many questions and discussions on ethics, denial, and the human condition. Let's explore the condition so that after exploration, you come to a conclusion about being your brother's keeper. In older times, we all lived in smaller places. We knew our neighbors. Even in the larger cities, there were neighborhoods where everybody knew their local neighbors. The main social unit was the extended family, who lived close to each other and looked after each family member. The individual in trouble was looked at as an individual, and they were helped with their troubles on an individual basis. It was assumed responsibility would be provided by the family to aid members. Humans are wired to be empathetic to the suffering of fellow human beings. Society was not built on the idea of everyone for themselves. Society took care of its members and looked at them as individuals and as members of their community. Society has now evolved to individuals looking out for themselves. What has changed and is different in how we approach being our brother's keeper? Even though the world is more connected than ever, the degree of loneliness and social isolation is spreading. Families are spread across the country. Divorce is causing further disruptions. The definition of family has changed. Social media has created social isolation and loneliness to agree never experienced before. Mental illness is rampant. Drug usage is at an all-time high. Homelessness is a real problem. I think society as a whole is aware of the problems facing people who have become marginal members of society. It acknowledged that something has to be done about the ills of society. But now society considers all these people as numbers and statistics, not as individuals. People expect, by and large, that all levels of government will deal with the problems. There doesn't really seem to be a national plan, but rather a hodgepodge of different solutions proposed for the problems. First and foremost, it seems so many activists state you can't use certain approaches because you will violate the rights of a person who really needs help. Hey, let's examine how this is working. They opened the floodgates and put a lot of mentally ill out on the streets with nothing in place to adequately treat them. Many of these people ended up being homeless and unable to cope with the stresses of this fast-paced individual society. In the past, there were alcoholics on the street, and police could at least round them up and put them in a place to dry out. Nothing was really done on a global basis for drug abuse. What did people in society do? They wanted plans to deal with drugs, mental health, and homelessness. In steps, governments took various levels of these to solve their problems. The levels of government developed programs that regarded all of these problems as statistics rather than individuals. A sensible plan for homelessness was never developed that was coordinated by all governments to create permanent housing for the homeless. A system of shelters was developed that cost enormous expense, but did not reduce the homelessness plaguing society significantly. The Band-Aid approach hasn't worked. Drug usage is at an all-time high. Death from lethal drugs is a pandemic. What did the government do to solve these? Legalize the use of certain drugs to ensure that the drug users got safe drugs. They created safe injection sites so users could use clean needles. These sites became problems for the neighborhoods they were in. Used needles, dropped around, property damage, theft, and intimidation of the residents. Free use of drugs anywhere, but not much was done because we can't violate the rights of drug users. What about the rights of the public? Closing treatment centers and releasing the mentally ill into society without the resources to help them has created a disastrous situation. Every day we hear of problems caused by people with mental illness. What we're doing is not working. We must first answer the question, are we our brother's keeper by doing what we've been doing? I just don't think so. Here are a few suggestions. You may have some. The first thing we need to do is look at each member of this marginal community as an individual. Like any one of us, we have a number of experiences, both good and bad, that have shaped us into the individual that we are. So do they. I think we need to set up centers that combine all of the services in one place to reach each person as an individual with unique individual problems. By evaluating the total person, we would be able to direct them to the appropriate services. Homelessness. Develop a plan to create permanent housing for the homeless with follow-up services to help them adjust. People with a permanent home are stabler. They get better access to health care and are more reliant. Drugs are an addiction that is almost impossible to beat on your own. These people need to be forced into rehabilitation for treatment. But it goes without saying, we need to make rehabilitation facilities available for all. For the mentally ill, we have failed them. We need to make sure everyone has access to mental care with the facilities to provide long-term care to facilitate effective recoveries. Again, if necessary, we have to force treatment where required. I can hear the leftists saying, I'm not advocating that these people lose their civil rights, but I want you to consider that the vast majority of people have civil rights, and they should not be denied because of the actions of people who are ill. You can decide what you think. Are you your brother's keeper? I want to leave you with these questions. Will we choose empathy over apathy? Will we acknowledge our role in others' suffering? Will we build communities of care or walls of indifference? Follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at Joe's Corner 76. You can follow me on X at JPhilosophy76. You can hear me on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube at Joe's Corner 76. Please hit the subscription button on my YouTube channel at Joe's Corner 76.